and I'm going to leave that in. Welcome to my channel. Today we are doing an Elementor and a Beaver Builder comparison video, and I brought some friends here, so I'm going to change my view here and show this screen here. All right, I brought Michael and Kristen, who both work for me at Clockwork. Why don't we just do a quick little intro, Michael, what your role is, and we'll switch over to Kristen.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Michael Early. I'm the creative director here at Clockwork. And just a little background is I'm going to be showing you the Elementor side of things today. I primarily work in Elementor, but of course here at Clockwork we use all kinds of tools, Elementor and Beaver Builder being the top two, which is why we're doing this kind of comparison today. And I'm excited to show you a little bit about Elementor. And Kristen here will introduce herself and tell you a bit about Beaver Builder.
Hi, I'm Kristen Whitten. I work at Clockwork also as a web designer and builder. I handle the majority of our Beaver Builder sites, but I have been working in some of our Elementor sites as well. So I have a good overview of the comparison. I actually wrote a blog post about it not too long ago. In case you want to check it out, we'll link that in the description.
Can we do that?
But yeah,
I'm just kidding. Sorry. This, by the way, this is supposed to be a very casual video, so it's going to be. We're probably going to screw up a couple times editing things and fixing things, but we'll get there with a functional site. And real quick, how much? So this kind of like goes back to the good old days when page builders were like new in the WordPress days, like 2014 and 15, where I used to compare all of these things. It wound up being where Beaver Builder and Elementor, in my humble opinion, wound up winning. They won the battle. Elementor, obviously, I think won in general because they have some, I don't know how many millions of active installs we have, or they have, but I think it's over 6 million active installs, which is a big portion of WordPress sites, whereas Beaver Builder has, I think, probably like a tenth of that, maybe. So it's not as I think Elementor is one, but Beaver Builder has its own use case in my humble opinion. So we're basically going to be going through here. Actually, Michael, why don't you explain what we're doing today? So
yeah, of course. With that, Aaron touched on that there's reasons kind of one might choose Beaver Builder over Elementor. And we certainly have that choice every time a client comes to us. We're deciding, okay, here are their needs. Here's what they're looking for today and long term, and what might be the best tool for that. And usually, we're a WordPress primarily work in WordPress shop, but we do have other tools as well. But if we're looking at WordPress and a page builder, we're deciding usually between Elementor and Beaver Builder. And, we'll kind of go over all of the reasons why you might choose one over the other today. But, if we were trying to simplify it into, the basics, I think a lot of it is Elementor does really well for, building websites quickly and focusing on design and more bells and whistles, whereas Beaver Builder really focuses more on being dev friendly and solid, and they're not going to put out too many updates that when you update your website, anything breaks. Whereas Elementor probably tries to push the envelope a little bit and give you that new feature that everybody's been asking for, but a little less stable. So it really depends, kind of what you're looking for long term and how much time you're trying to spend building the site and so on. So, but today what we're looking at specifically to show you that difference is a comparison between, Kristen and I. Kristen's going to take the Beaver Builder side of things. I'll take the Elementor side of things. And we tried to find a very basic template here that we'll be rebuilding to kind of show you, touch on all the different points of page or website building. So we found this template and we actually simplified it just a bit. So we have a header up here, a pretty basic header, logo, menu, and button, a hero section here, a general other page section as well, and then a footer. So we're going to kind of take a look at rebuilding this, and we'll see how far we get today. We'll probably break this up into a couple different sections. but we'll go back and forth. So the idea is for each section, the header, the main body of the website, and the footer, devoting 10 minutes to each of those, as well as adding on there at the very beginning kind of general site setup stuff that you might come across when you're working with Beaver Builder or Elementor. So you really get kind of that bird's eye view of, if you're going to choose one or the other, what that whole site building process might look like. Did I forget anything, Kristen or Aaron?
I was, by the way, I accidentally for like 2 seconds I had the browser disappear for a second, so the screen like disappeared for a second. But whatever, this is going to be the rest of this is going to be super professional. No, the only thing, how many years of experience do both of you guys have doing Elementor and or Beaver Builder?
Yeah, as a general web designer, since 2011, 2012, I think the end of 2011, with Elementor, pretty much from year one of Elementor's release, somewhere around 2017, 20. I think I started in 2017 with like Elementor to begin with, and maybe a year after that we weren't even considering using other the older page builders at that time where I was. Kristen.
Yeah, outside of college, because I did build my first WordPress site in college. My first client website that was WordPress was in 2015. And I have been building Beaver Builder websites since early 2017.
Okay.
So
And
8 years.
okay.
Yeah,
And I've been doing web stuff since '96. Been doing WordPress. Like I did my first WordPress install in 2005. So 20 years of WordPress experience. And then Beaver Builder wound up being the one that I chose for my company because it was the most stable and Elementor didn't exist. And then about 3 or 4 months after I said, you know what, we're going to start building everything in Beaver Builder. The primary reason of that is we had developers, and it was kind of pointless to pay to have a developer to make the homepage look like the comp when you could just do it with a page builder. It just saves a ton of time. So that was the primary reason. But I don't have nearly as much experience with Elementor. I have a lot more Beaver Builder experience, so hopefully I don't bug you with too many questions, Michael, when you're doing stuff. But
no, I always enjoy the kind of training, the educational part of all of this, kind of working as a community to learn new tips and tricks and ways to increase the speed of building and all the different ways of doing things. So I like the questions. Bring them on. Don't hesitate to interrupt me.
Yeah, I think my favorite calls that we have are clients who have sat with their brand new websites for a while, and then they come back for extra training on how to do things that they've jumped in and tested themselves and couldn't quite get it over the finish line, and we get to show them, and they get excited to show us like what they figured out on their own. And yeah.
it's been impressive to see some of the clients how like a lot of clients are, here's the Word document that has the picture and the text that we need on the website, and they send us that, and they never touch the website. But we've had some people that have just dug in and really learned Beaver Builder, where they've done some impressive stuff. So, and we're here just like we can give them support, we can give them a video on how to do stuff, we could do the work for them, So we
Yeah.
do a little of everything. But all right, I think, are we ready to dive in? So
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So the first item we're looking at is kind of the general site setup.
hold real quick. Should I set a timer?
Oh yeah. So just to reiterate, our goal is 10 minutes per section per person. So we'll see how that works.
And it might wind up being where we need more time, but I want people to just see in 10 minutes what we can get done. If we need to spend 3 more minutes to make it look good, we can do that. We have no set rules. But all right, I'm going to do a stopwatch, and it's on.
All
So
right, cool. So we're looking at the general site setup with Elementor. So kind of doing a general site setup for a site like this. So a client might come to us, they might have particular colors, fonts, look and feel that they're trying to emulate on their website. So we'll take that and kind of set the foundation of the site. There's a couple of key things that I'll show you about how to do that that will really lay the foundation to make things easier and more cohesive as you're building down the road. So to just take a quick look at where we are right now, I was just on the front end of the website. So we're using a Hello theme. It's what we highly recommend for Elementor, since Elementor is so powerful, both from a page builder and website builder perspective, theme builder perspective. There's really not too much of a need for your theme to do anything. So Hello theme came about as a way to just kind of get the theme out of the way so Elementor can do its work. So what we see here is like pretty basic install with Hello theme installed. So really we're starting with a pretty clean slate from the front end perspective. If we dive into the back end, I'll show you a couple things that we have installed already, just so you have some of that information. If we look at the plugins, we have some basic plugins that we just have for our hosting and some stuff that we always have for SEO set up. But besides that, really, we have Elementor and Elementor Pro already installed and set up in terms of like our license setup and all of that. We usually work off of what's called we use like a basic template that we build once and then duplicate as like the starting building block for all sites. Really, there's not too much going on there besides that we have some things that we do on every site that we're like, why are we doing this over and over again? Let's have this kind of package that we push when we're starting a new website. And with that, if we go back to the front end here, the way we would get to the Elementor site setup, we would click Edit with Elementor here on any page really, but we're just going to it on our front page here. And then we go to site settings. And what we're going to see here is the kind of, what the site settings control is anything that's controlling the whole site. So not just the header, the footer, the main body, or a particular page. It's really things that are overarching throughout the whole website that are controlled by Elementor. And that's all the settings you see here. We're going to be really focusing on the colors, fonts, and typography for the most part. And that's really the bulk of what you're going to be setting up. The rest is not as... I won't say important, but usually things that we touch a little bit less. But what you'll see here is we have like really basic stuff set up in here that I'll be changing out as we go along in the fonts and everything. We do have some basic font set up here, and as I scroll down, you'll see it's just so we have other fonts to work with that are going to be site-wide set. So really
just so I know, this is not a page that is created. This is just something that Elementor does on the back end for you to do the styling. Okay.
Yes, yeah, that is correct, and that's a good point to point out. So yeah, all you see on the right-hand side is just Elementor stuff that will kind of reflect your settings over on the left, so you can actually see those settings in action somewhat. What I'll be kind of doing today for the general site setup is taking this beginning, and I'll walk through and make sure to point out like what's already set up that you would need to set up on your end if you're starting fresh. And I'm going to kind of drop in some colors and some fonts that we're going to be using on the front end. So to look at that, I usually start from the top down here. So I'll usually start with colors. So, if we're looking at this website, you can grab your colors in so many different ways. Use a color picker tool like I have here, or you can use your dev tools. You could even take a screenshot, bring it into Photoshop. A lot of times clients will provide those hex codes or, whatever codes you need to set up your colors. But I already have those over in a different document that I'm just going to copy and paste in here. So you'll set up your colors. You see here the main green. So I'm going to call this primary, but I'm going to add green on there so it's a little more clear. We have our secondary color, which I am going to drop in here, which is just a lighter version of that green. So I'm going to do secondary light green, text. And if you'll see at the top here, we have the system colors versus our custom colors. That's kind of important because the system colors will actually be used by things by default sometimes, whereas the other colors generally don't. but you can always kind of change these around after the fact. So like when we're setting things up here, it's best to get them as set up as we can, but it's no worries if you need to come back here and correct anything. So this is a background color. You might not have even noticed because it's pretty soft of a color, but this is not white. This is kind of an off-white cream color. So I'm dropping that in here, and I'm going to go ahead and delete. I think I have all the colors. I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. Okay, so we have our 6 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. I always throw white in there because I don't think there's ever been a website where I haven't used white in some sort of form on the website. So there we have all of our colors. The reason why these are so helpful is these are going to be variables that we can then call on as we're building the rest of the website, and that just will make our design so much more cohesive, and we don't have to keep on finding that color elsewhere. Also, since they're set up like variables like this, if your client ever comes to you or you decide that you want to change like the primary green color, you can do it in one place, and your whole site will adapt to that, and that's so helpful. I remember the old days of site building. You'd have to tweak a color, and you're like, oh, I have that in the code maybe 30 times. You could do a search and replace, but that left you a little unsure, a little uneasy. So nice to have these variables set up in there. As for the text, these are just the sizing for the most part, and it's kind of like the median sizes that you might set for any kind of website, and it's a variety. Really, the only thing I'm going to be doing today is just setting this to Marcellus, which is the font that they're using here. It's a Google font. Elementor works really well with Google fonts. You'll see here, they're like kind of automatic.
In fact, that's all I ever recommend. So, but
yes, it's, you can pay for a custom font. You can pay for a font that you download off of a more expensive option. Google Fonts tends to be the easiest thing to work with here. So again, I'm just dropping in Robata as the default Elementor font, I believe. I'm just replacing that across the board here with
so
Marcellus.
You can't do that globally then.
I couldn't just.
Or you enjoy doing this part. That's
yeah. There's no, we can't change the font for all of these at the same time. So there's some things that, it's much easier than setting it for every.
You're only going to do it once though, too, so it's not the end of the world, but that is a little tedious.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the reasons why, we kind of do as much as we can in the Elementor template that we use to start websites, so that we don't have to do all of these things over and over again. But setting fonts, since almost every website uses a different font, or not too many are going to use the same, we generally have to do this. So we'll see kind of like all of the colors we have up here that we might want to choose from. I don't think dark background color, I deleted that one. That didn't. I guess I need to hit save.
8 minutes.
Okay, so
we might need more time.
But look, we set up the colors, we set up the fonts. That was hopefully 80% of what I need to do today. We'll take a look at typography, but that's going to be basically just referencing my other fonts I have. So I'm just going to set up typography, set that to body is going to body text medium. We have some of this set up already. I guess I need to refresh that because that's still coming up with our old fonts and with our old colors. And I'm going to go back into typography, and here we go. That's bringing in the right thing. So actually not too bad. I'm going to set up hover colors in here. I'm going to set all my H1s to just by default use this color that I think I'll be using as text throughout the website. And normally I would go through too and likely set some of these to the typography to inherit certain things. So like H1 would probably either be a medium or a large title in here. So I would do things like that. But I can do that right now. And I'm just going to do large, medium, and then just go down the line to small title and extra small title and extra, extra small. And then H6, I'm just going to make extra small as well. Okay, so
that's ever use an H6 tag? That's
no, not really. There was times back in the day when you sometimes would use H6 for a particular style but that's not improper anyway. So yeah, years ago maybe, but not for the longest time. Just to show you real quick with the minute or so I have left, the other tabs here, buttons, we normally set this up. It's not a big deal if you don't set it up. I feel like most websites that I look at from clients that we're inheriting, they don't set up a lot of this stuff. A lot of the other important thing is the logo in here, which I'm going to quickly drop in the logo that I've downloaded already. We have SVGs turned off. For the sake of this call, I'm just going to do something I would never do, really, is take a screenshot of the logo and use that just for right now's sake.
We could come back later and do it right.
I'll fix that for the next video, or
okay.
we actually get in, but just to show someone dropping in the logo there. Site identity, you also want to do a favicon as well as, of course, name your site. Elementor Forge is fine for now. Background, I'm going to go ahead and set this to cream, and I'll do the same here. And then my last setting that I sometimes do is the layout area. I probably should have figured out exactly what they're doing here. 1256 is probably pretty close to what they're doing there. So actually, I'm just going to save it there. But sometimes I mess with the content with 1320, 1256. 1140 is the default Elementor has installed. I actually also kind of like to change this to 12. That is all good here. So yeah, did I go over my 10 minutes? I think that's about it.
Yeah, we're at 11 minutes and 18 seconds. You also spent the first 2 minutes talking about some things that might not have been included, should not have been included, but whatever. It's around 10 minutes. You're good.
Okay, cool. So that's basic site setup. I'll pass it over to Kristen for her to show you the basic site setup with Beaver Builder.
Yeah.
Pressure's on. So
I know. This is exciting. So let me share my whole window here so you can see. Okay, cool. So I am in the dashboard. I know Michael covered the plugins already, but I just wanted to show kind of the other side of it with Beaver Builder. We have the Pro version installed. And we also have Beaver Themer, which is now included with the purchase of Beaver Builder. And that basically operates. You didn't know that?
Cool. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
We bought it. I bought it 8 years ago and haven't, I'm just going to continue to renew. So, but that's good. That's good to know. That should have been included a long time ago. So,
yeah, my personal licenses still have them separated as well. But luckily back in the day, it was just a one-time purchase for Beaver Themer anyways. It wasn't a yearly subscription. So now it's included, which is awesome. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to the header and footer, dive into that. And the other difference is on the theme side. Instead of the Hello theme, Beaver Builder has its own theme and child theme, which you install whenever you install the Pro version. So I will switch over to the pages. I already have, I just set up a home page in name only, and I will go in here and activate Beaver Builder. And to get my global styling set up, you're actually going to come to this drop down and go into global styles. I always click global settings first and get lost, but obviously I'm prepared for today. And this is
just kidding.
This is where the first one under elements is where you basically set up the typography. And this is only divided into the H tags, or the heading tags, and then you can set up your text links and your button styling. And then the second tab, it gives you the colors. So I'll just start here since that's where Michael started as well. So we're going to do the green, and I will copy and paste from the same document. And then you just click add.
You don't have all the colors memorized? So, all right.
Not for this website. That doesn't come
much better than I ever will be at seeing hex codes and knowing a little bit of information about what color that might be. I think she could be on a game show where you match, where you see colors and then guess hex codes. Where
I could do an okay job doing it just because the way the colors are I mean it's RGB, so the first two are red, the second two are green, and then blue. But yeah,
I mean, I just couldn't even begin. I couldn't even begin to think about what a purple would be. I'd have to think a lot, and I'd be way off. I think. Yeah. I didn't
well,
even
it
think
is.
about it like that so much until Chris and I were talking, and I was like, I guess that is true. All those hex codes, those numbers,
they mean something,
they mean
Yeah,
something. They're
it's
not just
weird.
random.
Yeah. I will say my favorite gray is the light gray F2, F2, F2. So much so I had to make sure that I stopped using it because I felt like a lot of my websites were including it. So sometimes you have to reel yourself in on
Change
that.
it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So while we were talking, I did get all of these global colors set up, and I'm gonna switch over. I think it's gonna force me to save. So yes, please. And then for the text, uh-oh, I might need to refresh here.
So one thing Elementor and Beaver Builder are very similar at, you need to refresh after setting your global colors.
Yes,
Makes sense,
let's.
kinda. I mean, you would think they would have a auto refresh
Yeah,
thing,
after the
but
save, I feel like refresh should be packaged with that, but
yeah.
not complete.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna use the inspector here to figure out what size we're at. Did you edit any of yours, Michael?
I didn't edit sizes, no. So it's going to be a little bit of a, when we get to the page building portion, I'll have to go back and change the global settings a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, in that case, this is not Marcellus, so
Oh, it's not. Oh, that's true.
yeah, and I cut that while I'm looking.
Enter.
I can make jokes while you're doing research. So just kidding.
Yes.
I'll have our dad jokes, which are no fun. So
I'm
I
gonna
think
I'm gonna
the
cheat while you're doing that. I'm gonna fix mine as well.
okay, perfect. I think on the flip side, if there's a game show for fonts, Michael would definitely win.
Ah, I'm not sure about that, but thank you for the confidence.
I wouldn't be able to do that. I don't know fonts because I kind of feel like I'd be happy if just Arial were just all we ever used. So, but
Yeah, you have two designers on the call with you, so
I know,
you should be
I
careful
know,
saying stuff like
I know.
that. Um, so I know I'm not even talking that much about what I'm doing because we're joking around too much, but I am just trying to get an idea for the weights that we're using. Maybe I'm getting too in the weeds here on this, but um just want to match it up as close as possible.
So
But
she's using the inspector basically. The if you're on a computer using Chrome and you right click, you can get to the inspector and you can inspect an element. And so all Kristen's doing is going and looking and comparing what that example site and what font size it's using, what color it's using, and she's just mimicking it. So, and I totally get that. It's hard to say that while you're doing it,
yes,
So
You're kind of
definitely.
a play-by-play announcer here, Aaron.
yeah.
And I will say, they do give you the option to actually adjust the font weight, the font size, line height, and then the colors. I'm not gonna set colors here, but I will do that in the actual building of it. And there, we might need to change that on our footer. because they only have these in paragraph tags. So we will update that here in just a second when we get to the footer. So I'm just going to make sure everything is using the correct font and edit the actual size just so it roughly follows a descending size order. And yes, I don't think I've ever used an H6 in my 10 years of doing this. And then for the links, what are we using here? It looks like we're using the dark green here as well. So I will set it to the dark green, and I will set the light green for our hover. And for the buttons, I prefer to set those up and do a saved module to reuse throughout the site. And we probably won't cover that in this video, but I'll at least cover the button and how to save it and reuse it quickly once we get to we're going to set a button up in the header. So I'll try and cover that really fast while we're doing that. But you can see a few of the changes here. I'm just directly in the home page when I set all that up. I'm sure we all noticed some of the changes going on in the background. And if I wanted to start on my actual homepage, that was weird. I could just jump right in and start adding sections, but I know we're going to jump over to the header next. So I will hand it
We're at 9
back
minutes.
off.
Are you done?
I am done.
Okay. Okay. So under 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
but all right, that wraps up part 1. This is going to be a part 4 series, so make sure you stick around, and we'll link to the other videos once they are available. Thanks.